The number one thing that has helped me with my self trust and my intuition simultaneously is the art of noticing. And noticing in the way that we're offering non judgment and compassion to ourselves. So, I'm not talking about the self awareness where you spiral in your journal over and over and again about the same thing, trying to figure it out. I'm talking about the noticing that happens when your body has a little nudge and asks you to sit down and rest for a minute without guilt and shame. And I'm talking about the noticing the stories in your mind that are on a loop track that you maybe have learned from somebody in the past or adopted for yourself for some reason, and um, some kind of shadow thing happening in the background, right? And we're noticing these things without judgment, without shame, and with a lot of compassion for ourselves, right? And empathy for what we've gone through. Um, and in this video, um, in this video, what we're going to do is talk about the art of noticing and talk about how you can incorporate the art of noticing into your daily life and how that helps you then with your intuition and your self trust. Also, hi, hello. My name is Mackenzie of Big Love Studio, and I help people trust themselves through all kinds of uncertain situations and not abandon themselves halfway through the process. So, welcome. Let's get into it. So, the art of noticing. This is something that I learned back in my yoga training. I went to yoga 200-hour yoga teacher training at Kripalu, which is in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. And one of the things that really stuck out to me in that training was how over and over again through all of the classes, even though the teachers had different styles and even though, they brought their own flavors to their classes, which was great and wonderful. One of the Kripalu yoga principles was about noticing. And Swami Kripalu, who founded Kripalu Yoga and came over from India to bring it to the US, he said the highest form of spiritual practice is self observation without judgment. And this was something that really hit me. And it really it came home with me from that yoga teacher training. And it was something that I started incorporating into my life, but also, when I was teaching yoga, a big part of what we did was notice what comes up in your body when we do chair pose for the third time. Notice what comes up in your body when you're exploring this pose. Notice what comes up in your body when we pop into half moon pose and you're a little unsteady and unstable. Notice what comes up. You don't have to judge it, but just notice, right? And over again, I would repeat that in my classes, right? Because this was a practice that I brought into my life and it just had such a significant impact. So, noticing is more about not overriding the feelings in the body or what's happening in the mind. And just because the mind is talking about something doesn't mean that that thought is true. And I think sometimes we put a lot of stock in our thoughts. Um, but I think sometimes it can just be that there's a story in the background that's on a loop track. And it's something that I've adopted from somewhere along my way. And I sometimes I don't even notice it, right? But what happens when we notice it, right? And when we notice it, I think we can move with it in a different way. Sometimes what I think needs to happen is that if there's still hurt around that thing, we might have to do some work around that. We might have to, and it's not about shaming ourselves just because we are annoyed that we're still thinking in this way. No. What it is if there is hurt around that thing, what do we need to do to acknowledge and love on that part of ourselves? And sometimes that is in therapy, sometimes it's working in energy healing. Sometimes that is like, finding a community that understands us, right? Sometimes that it's just us talking to that part of ourselves and saying, hey, it's okay that you're uncomfortable. It's okay that you feel fear, right? We're in a different part of our lives now. How do we want to move forward from here, right? Sometimes we want to be gentler with ourselves around it. And sometimes, like I experienced the other day, we have loop tracks in the back of our head and the stories are just playing, right? The stories are just going, right? And sometimes, and in this instance, for example, I had this like story that I'm not enough, right? And I've had that story playing for a very long time, right? Are you sure that you're able to do this? Do you really believe that this is a thing that you can do? And I had to like interrupt that story and sit myself down like a big sister would and be like, honey, we are not playing this story anymore because it's simply just not true. And the only reason you're playing this story is because it's a lot more comfortable being in that small box than it is expanding out into something else, right? So, when we can notice these things and notice them with true compassion for ourselves. And true compassion comes with practice sometimes, but when we can notice them with non judgment and with compassion, we can move with them in a different way. I think there's a difference between being self aware and between being self aware and and noticing. Self awareness comes with like a lot of labels sometimes. Like I can be self aware that I have ADHD and I am a manifesting generator and I'm an Aries sun and all of these things, right? Those are things that I'm aware of, right? In myself. But when I am noticing the real time experience that I'm having in my body and acknowledging that that is real and that it doesn't mean that I have to change my path or what I'm doing, but that in this moment, something needs to be acknowledged. It might be that I need to be a little gentler with myself. It also might be that I need to kind of reframe the story for myself and be like, whoa, whoa, we're going to interrupt this pattern right now. Right? This is what I do in my energy healing sessions with people is I help interrupt those patterns, right? Um, but I think noticing is actually the path to intuition, to a stronger intuition, right? It is because noticing is about being present with what is right now. And intuition is about being present with what is right now. It is the feeling that you are feeling in your body at this moment and choosing not to override that feeling, but actually give that feeling some credit. Actually saying, actually, you know what? I do feel this thing right now. You don't have to know what it is. You don't have to put a label on it. You don't have to even do anything with it. But you notice it. You take note of it. And you don't even have to keep track of it because you know what? If your intuition is guiding you in a certain direction, I believe that comes back around. I don't think that, for me at least, intuition doesn't just strike one time. It usually strikes a couple of times. And my job in my body is to pay attention to it and to notice when something is happening, right? And notice what the pattern is. This is not about being hyper vigilant about what you're noticing, right? Because, like I said, I think there's a difference. Self awareness can, make us feel all of the things, but it can also sometimes bring us into spiral moments, right? Where we're so self aware, but we can't move ourselves forward, right? Because we're self aware to the point that we're like over labeling ourselves or over analyzing or intellectualizing things, but not actually feeling it. And so we might be like, well, I know this about myself, right? And I want you to like take a moment whenever you feel really like, I know this about myself, right? Notice what that feeling is that's coming up in your body when you're like when you're feeling into, or rather identifying really hard with something. I think sometimes we can get stuck in those kinds of loops, right? Or what's a story that you tell yourself about yourself all the time? All the time. Do you tell yourself you're not good at something? Notice that. Where did that come from? Right? And can we not treat it as something that is absolute? Because if you watch my last video, I talked about neuroplasticity, right? And it's something that is a very helpful thing to me, is that we have the ability to change our mind, to grow our mind, to create new neural pathways in our minds. Nothing is absolute. No identity is absolute here, right? No personality or anything is absolute. We're always changing and shifting. And I believe that the art of noticing helps us trust ourselves in those uncertain moments, lean into our intuition in those uncertain moments. But one of the things is we need to practice it outside of the uncertain moments also. And if you're in an uncertain moment now, it doesn't mean that you can't practice this, right? That's not really what I mean, but I'm saying it is a longer term practice than just today I'm going to notice. it it takes time. And that's okay, right? The art of noticing is something that I so believe is part of this self-trust process that we are that I'm creating a whole program around it called the Portal of Self-Trust. And we're in the moment of bringing that into the world right now. And it is for people who are know themselves inside and out, have done all the journaling, have done all the affirmations, have done all of the things, and they still don't trust themselves when it comes to the decision, right? When it comes to the game time decision. So, um, if you are interested, the link will be down below. But I would like to leave you with just this one thing that this self-trust, noticing, intuition, it's a practice. It is not that one day you were intuitive and then boop, I'm intuitive forever at the same level the whole time. I will tell you from much experience that that is not true. There are times that I have been much more in tune with my intuition in different ways than I am now. And um and now also feels a lot different than those times in a good way too, right? But it's a practice and it's something that you don't just get and then you know how to do it, right? It's not one of those skills like changing a tire, for example, or learning how to make coffee and you just like know how to do it now forever, right? This is a practice. It's something that changes and grows over time and you fall in and out of multiple times, right? It is a practice to do this work. And that means that you can fail as many times as you want. And I mean that as permission to let go of the perfectionism of trying to get it right all the time. I'm saying this to me as much as I'm saying it to you. But let go of the perfection of trying to get it right or trying to make the right decision and trusting yourself after you move. We're going to talk about this in the next video. So, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Let me know any questions that you have in the comments below. Have you practiced the art of noticing and how has it worked for you? I'm so curious. And yeah, subscribe, do all the things, like this video, would really appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video.